Greetings everybody and welcome back to another video on Project Ascension. Today I would like to talk a bit about talents and abilities. With 9 classes and respective free talent trees for each of the classes, you can imagine that there's like a ton of abilities and talents available in the game. And being able to choose from all of them and cherry picking the best of the spells can be a bit overwhelming at first. So with this guide, I would like to show you what kind of spells and talents are the most efficient ones and what abilities you should choose in order to get a maximum out of your precious points. I think the theme for this video will be Let's Get Critical, taking a look at all the critical strike increasing talents and abilities that you can pick up on your way to level 60 in Project Ascension. Before we start though, I would like to give a huge shout out to Live Again. Thanks to his tremendous work and research in this field, players on Ascension have a much easier time cherry picking the best of the spells. So definitely check him out, his channel, his spreadsheet. He's just an overall great guy and probably one of the most valuable content creators for the server. Another point I should mention here is that you can jump from talent tree to talent tree in Project Ascension without having to invest in like former tiers of talents. So for example, if I want to invest some points into Vitality, I can just do that without actually having to spend some of the points into weapon expertise, hack and slash and so forth. Well, there's actually one requirement, and that of course is that you are at the current level that the talent needs. So for example, Vitality, I should be around level 40 in order to skill that one. So with these things out of the way, let's jump into the talents that will be the most useful in order to increase your critical chance. As you might have guessed already, the most efficient and the best talents are usually amongst the higher tier of talent trees. So we start out with Blessing of Eternals, available in the Restoration Shaman tree at level 45. If you are going for a caster crit build, there are a few options you can go for. For example, we have Blessing of the Eternals right here, which increases the critical effect chance of your spells by 2%. On top of that, it also increases the chance to apply the Earth-Living Heal over time effect on the target by 40% when they are at or under 35% of total health. If you are going for a damage dealer build, the second effect might not be as interesting to you, but getting a 2% increased crit chance for only 1 talent point makes Blessing of the Eternals already very much worth it and very efficient. Speaking of secondary effects, here we have one that is actually very important. In the Fire Mage talent tree we find Pyromaniac, gaining 1% crit chance for 1 talent essence. That's pretty basic. But this talent allows you 8% of the mana regeneration to continue while casting. Keep in mind, also per talent essence, so in the end around 25% of your mana regeneration, which of course for boss fights for PvE is a huge deal. Also this increased crit chance is not only for spells and might prove useful to you even if you are more of a hybrid build. Elemental Oath is another amazing talent. You can find it at level 45 in the Elemental Shaman tree. While clear casting from Elemental Focus is active, you deal 5% more damage with fire, nature and frost spells. In addition, party and raid members within 100 yards receive a 3% bonus to their spell critical strike chance. Very efficient if you're just going for pure critical strike with the nice side effect of actually sharing it with your team members, and on top of that gaining, well, if you are in that sort of build, in the elemental kind of build, gaining a damage boost from the first effect. But again, even if you are not on an elemental focus build, you should definitely look into this kind of talent right here. But be aware, if you want to build some sort of Moonkin caster, then you should probably stray away from the elemental build. Moonkin form and Elemental Oath won't stack. Of course there are much more talents and abilities that will increase your flat critical strike chance, but keep in mind that all of those pretty much just increase your critical strike chance 1% per talent essence. Naming Thundering Strikes from the Enhancement talent tree and Conviction from the Retribution Paladin tree, just as a quick example. Okay, let's head over to crit increases for melee builds, and even there the elemental tree is still going strong, starting off with Elemental Devastation available at level 15. Your non-periodic offensive spell crits will increase your chance to get a critical strike with melee attacks by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 9% if you invest 3 talent points. If you are going with a pure melee build, then you can probably stay away from this talent But in Ascension, with the sheer amount of abilities and talents, there's a good chance that you are going to go hybrid, and if you do, then this talent is an absolute must-have. 3% critical strike increase for only one talent essence is a huge deal. Another overall amazing talent to pick up is combat experience. You can find this one in the Protection Paladin tree at level 45, increasing your expertise by 1, your total stamina and your chance to critically hit by also 1%. As I mentioned, getting 1% of crit increase for 1 TE is probably the most basic thing. But on top of that, with combat expertise, you will gain an additional 1 expertise for your weapons and also 1% stamina increase. So if you are any sort of hybrid tank or just pure DPS, this is probably your go-to talent. Another pretty late but also very strong ability / talent is Rampage. We can find that one in the Fury Warrior tree down all the way at level 50, investing only 2 ability essences and 1 talent essence. This is almost a must-have for any physical build. Of course, we have some honorable mentions right here in the Assassination Rogue tree. Right at level 10 you can pick up Malice, increasing your melee and range critical strike by 1%. Another flat 1-for-1 increase with, well, some nice bonus. As you might have noticed, all the talents and abilities I just mentioned also apply to range builds, so even on that tree, those are the go-to talents. At this point I would like to mention that there are some talents that you probably shouldn't go for example lethal shots. I mean, if you really want just crit and you are a range build, then this might still be your choice, but there's just so much better stuff in terms of flat DPS increase. I won't cover that in this video, but in terms of increasing your attack power, your agility, your overall damage, you will find a ton of good abilities and talents. So going for stuff like lethal shots, which only increases your crit chance for range builds, is very specific, and with the flat 1-for-1 increase, actually not worth it. There are also a few abilities that will have an effect on your critical strike. They won't increase it per se, but for example they will increase the damage that you deal with critical strikes. You can find it right at the Frost Mage tree at level 15, and it will allow you to increase your critical strike damage by 100% with 3 points spent. But only 4, and you really have to keep this in mind, Mage Frost spells. There are a few more of those abilities, but I won't cover them in this video. They are kinda important for your crit builds, but also very specific. Talents like Ice Shards or Vengeance, for example, in the Balanced Root tree, really only apply for your certain spells and for your certain damage types. In this video I really wanted to cover the best abilities, the best talents that will just increase your critical chance no matter what. And on top of that, maybe give you some sort of advantage. You can probably apply them to any sort of DPS build you want to go with. Speaking of DPS, in the next part of the series, I'm going to go over stuff like attack power, damage percent increase and stat increase. But for now, this should do it, so huge thanks again to Live for providing us with all this useful information. I hope you learned something and you are able to implement those sort of talents into your build. And if there's something I can improve for the next part, then please let me know. If you could also leave a like, it would be much appreciated. Thanks for your feedback, thanks for your time. Have a fantastic evening. I see you guys around.